Keeping score on the San Francisco 49ers offseason today. Who's coming in, who's going out, and where does that put the 49ers NFL draft needs in April post-free agency? Coming at you on today's Locked On 49ers.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker with you as always at BD Peacock at Crocky209. Thanks everybody for making us your first listen here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. A special guest I will introduce momentarily. I want to let everybody know that this episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first ticket purchase. And you know what time it is if anybody's watching this show, as we do Tuesday nights on YouTube. Check it out on YouTube. Got to subscribe there. Leave some comments on YouTube. Usually have the podcast early on YouTube the night before, then first thing in the morning for you for our Wednesday episodes. Today's guest, Mr. Nicholas Winkler.
Nicholas Winkler, come on down.
Happy Winky Wednesday, everybody. Wink, how you doing, my man? If those of you who are new to the program don't know Nick Winkler, my old podcast host, we did a podcast on the 49ers called Gold Faithful, my old radio colleague as well. We used to report on traffic together in San Francisco. Former TV sports host as well was Nicholas Winkler, former game show participant, as you heard in the intro there. Wink, how you doing, man? How pumped are you with what's going on with the 49ers this offseason?
Well, there are goods and bads, right, in the offseason. Like, there's been some cool additions, but then there's been some key losses, too. I know we're going to get to that right now. So for me right now, I'm just kind of riding that fence. Like, I can be pushed either way, kind of based on what happens with Ayuk, I think. Like, that might be the one that pushes me in the up favor or in the, what are you guys doing? You know?
Okay. So are you on the fence with Ayuk, or is Ayuk the thing that gets you off?
No. If they don't, re-sign or extend Ayuk and he holds out or something, then I'm gonna be like, or they trade him away for some bag of beans or something, then I'm gonna be in the, well, this offseason's been trash, But if they re-up him for a couple of years and extend him and keep this, guy who should be a number one receiver on the team, then of course it's been an amazing offseason.
And if they do extend Brandon Ayuk, they're telling us he is the number one of, even if it's not 2024, 2025, 2026, they're planning on featuring him, and he's going to be the number one wide receiver in this offense eventually, but also trying to keep this core together for another run. And I still think that's the way they will do it. But according to reports, they're far apart, and they've done all their big deals in the summer, so I don't think anybody should be surprised that a deal's not done yet. But, will they listen to offers is my question before the draft, and our team's calling. I have a feeling some teams have called, and that's maybe where we've heard some of these reports. Wink, do you have a number in mind or a pick in mind that you would say, okay, this is something that makes sense? Salary cap stuff, you got to, Bosa's money's going up. You got to pay a quarterback $40-50 million is what the going rate is. If Brock Purdy continues to play like he's playing, that's just what's going to happen. Is there a draft pick? Is there some kind of compensation that would make sense to you to trade Brandon Ayuk if a team came calling?
Well, it's tough, right? Because you said it. You got to play within the cap. And that's going to be tough when you're paying a quarterback a huge amount of money. Right now, they got that rookie deal, and it's a cheap rookie deal because he was in the 7th round, right? So it's going to be tough to keep Ayuk long-term, especially if you're going to try to keep Debo as well, which, obviously I think the 49ers might move on from him when this contract's up because he's going to want a lot of money again, and you're not going to be able to keep this many stars together. So for me, I don't want to get rid of Ayuk. I'd love to re-sign Ayuk and keep him long-term, but if you can get, a first-round pick for him, I think you might have to do it. I think you might pull the trigger if somebody calls and says, hey, guys, here's a first-round pick, and then the 49ers can spend it on a cornerback or a lineman or even try again on another wide receiver to come in and take his place going forward.
Speaking of money, Croc, did you see that Deommodore Lenoir and Brock Purdy are going to get an extra $700K because of it's the rookie wage scale for guys that ball out basically and are starting a bunch of games and are being productive, that are making pennies compared to their counterparts that are veterans in the NFL. And so there's a little built-in league bonus structure for those guys. And I think there was a list of 20. I think Brock Purdy was like 24th in the league of getting this money. And it's not a ton of money, but for Brock Purdy, who's only making $800,000 or $900,000, he got another $700,000. He almost doubled his paycheck with this extra bonus. So this bonus pool money, Gametime Lenoir even got a little bit more than Brock Purdy did. I don't know how Brock Purdy doesn't get the most. He's the most valuable guy on the list of rookie contract players I saw. But both guys getting a little bump of about $700,000+, which is, it's good for these guys before they hit those big paydays.
They probably said that Brock Purdy benefits from having Deebo Samuel CMC.
Oh, that's true. Right. Yeah.
Right. So they use that argument against him as if he hasn't heard it enough already. I didn't know that, but I have a question I wish I can ask them. How do you determine how good somebody's playing? Like, do they go to PFF and say, oh man, Gametime Lenoir, according to PFF, he did very well. Look how many snaps he played. He didn't give up any touchdowns, or he only gave up one touchdown. Let's give him an extra $700,000. Like, how do they determine how much and who gets what?
It's a great question.
I don't know exactly how the formula is figured out. I got the numbers exactly right here. So Purdy earned $739,795. So just under $740K. For Gametime Lenoir, it was $790,000. According to David Lombardi, Purdy's number is lower here because he was a lower draft pick. So that hurts the compensation package and how all this goes together. Looking at the list now, John Simpson, guard for the Baltimore Ravens, 2020 pick in the 4th round, got 974, almost 975K. So that was the distribution there on the performance-based pay. So I think it's, probably how much you play. I think it starts playing time and where you were drafted, I think is what it is. I don't think they're actually just grading how the guys did.
So do you think they got the max amount? Like, did Purdy get the max amount for pick 262? Where he was drafted, his performance on the field, and he was a Pro Bowler.
I can't imagine it being better, right?
Right. So it's like, this is the maximum amount that you can make based on your situation.
And do you think they got it backwards too? Like, shouldn't the guys drafted later get more money because they're given less to begin with?
And they're playing better than their pay, more so than the other guys. So like Tariq Woolen was 10th on the list of the top 25 performance-based play. Tariq Woolen, Seattle corner, got benched last year. He's a 5th round pick. He got 839. He got more. Clearly, Brock Purdy provided more extra value to his team than Tariq Woolen did. Yeah,
that's a weird system.
That Tariq Woolen thing, that's interesting right there, right? And we see it happen so many times with players. Extremely talented guys, 6'4", ran 4.2, 4.3, whatever it was, had a really good rookie year. But the interesting thing about the NFL, and this is why, I think a lot of us continue to believe in Brock Purdy as well. A wise man, aka one of the greatest players of all time, once said, "Job's not finished." Right? Now it's Kobe Bryant. And what he's talking about is like, bro, there's still work to do. Okay, I had this certain level of success, or we're here. We won X amount of playoff games, whatever it is, but the job is not done. And it seems like Tariq Woolen, after having a terrific, dang near all-pro, Pro Bowl rookie year, felt like, oh, I've arrived. I'm here. I'm not going to, continue to do the things and prepare a certain way in the offseason. And that landed him on the bench during the year. I don't think anyone saw that coming. So you fast forward and you talk about Brock Purdy and how from his rookie year, we're thinking, man, how does he get better than this? Everything went great for him and you're balling and you added CMC and, okay, he got hurt. Oh, there's no way he looks better. I think you and I, Peacock, we even talked about how, hey, man, he can be better and it not quite reflect on the numbers when you look at the papers.
Yeah.
Right. And not only was it better, I mean, it's like, and you go to a Super Bowl, it's like he played the exact same way, if not better, at a consistent high level and barely had any blemishes. But I think a lot of it, again, has to do with, how rooted he is. And I've talked about, just his faith and him continuing to move forward there and walk in that and prepare that way. And I think a lot with him is that he feels like he's not identified as a football player. You know, it's like, this is not determine who I am. And I wonder if that's why he continues to approach this the right way, as if it is a job, because it is. And I think sometimes when you're not in the locker room with those guys, again, they're like normal people. Sometimes it comes off as, oh, it's what I'm supposed to be doing. It's like, no, like, this is a job, this opportunity. And guys like Woolen, and we'll see how he rebounds in year 3. He started taking a step backwards. Brock Purdy, he's lined up to make a lot more money than that $750,000 bonus or whatever it was.
You know, the Woolen thing's a lot more like Brandon Ayuk. Remember, as a rookie, he played so much, and then Kyle Shanahan later is like, well, yeah, we kind of had to play him because he was a first-round pick, and we didn't have a lot of guys. So he had to play. And then year 2 goes into the doghouse. He came out the other side of it. So, you know, as I always talk about, development is not always linear in the NFL.
Well, there's 2 ways you can go, right? There's the Tom Brady route, which is like, everybody overlooked me. I finally got a shot. And now every year I have to hold on to this job. I can't miss any time. They drafted Jimmy Garoppolo. I got to keep going. I got to, you know, and that's what it seems like Brock Purdy's doing. Like you said, he played well. He came back. He played even better. Like, is he going to come back, still stay rooted and continue on that path? Or is he going to go the other way? Like, we made it to the Super Bowl. All right, I can just kind of coast on that for a while.
Yeah. Did you hear him talk to the Iowa girls? I mean, Iowa State girls?
Yeah,
Iowa State, and he was saying, like, you know, this loss doesn't define you. You guys walk out of here with your heads high, and I'm like, man, he's turning into a real John Harbaugh right before our eyes. You know,
let's hope he doesn't show up like with a Bugatti and he threw all $700K down on a car. I'm like, Brock Purdy's in the big time now. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. He might start spending more money on his wardrobe and his haircut potentially. I don't know. We'll see.
I like him the way he is.
He's a pretty grounded dude. Yeah. Don't change Brock Purdy.
Got those Kirk Cousins vibes. And now he has a wife to pick out his clothes from Target, just like Kirk Cousins has.
Lay him out ahead of time each night.
Spend that Kohl's cash for sure. $700K in a Kohl's gift card. All right. Off-season scoreboard. Who's coming? Who's going? Did the 49ers get better? And what does that mean for their NFL draft needs next? Today's episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by Gametime. Gametime is now an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Gametime app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch, with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Gametime takes all the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets, and you know I'm going to be taking my son to some Major League Baseball games. Giants are actually a lot more fun to watch this season. So I'm all about those Giants tickets on Gametime. Whatever team you want to see, whatever concert, whatever comedy show, whatever theater event you want to see, you can get those tickets and killer last minute deals on the Gametime app. And you can save up to 60% off buying last minute sports, concerts, comedy and theater tickets near you. There's flash deals, zone deals, all in prices, the views from your seat before you buy, so you know you're getting a great deal and you know what to expect when you arrive at your event. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, let's go through some of this. We talked a little bit about the quarterback there. We do have some comings and goings as it pertains to quarterbacks on the 49ers roster right now, guys. And out is Sam Darnold. He's in Minnesota now, replacing Kirk Cousins for maybe a very short time, depending on what they do in the draft. Looks like Minnesota's gearing up to do something big on draft day. And the 49ers brought in Joshua Dobbs. Continuing on the offensive side of the ball, the 49ers have not done a lot there. Brandon Parker, free agent pickup from the Raiders. And on the way out, Matt Pryor, the 49ers did re-up John Feliciano to bring him back. So the starting offensive line is in place. Wide receiver Chris Connolly brought back. And Brandon Allen, who's going to battle with Josh Dobbs for that number 2, number 3 quarterback spot for the 49ers, potentially with maybe another day 3 draft pick. Who knows? Find another Brock Purdy in the 7th round. We'll see. Niners got a lot of day 3 picks here. Ben Barch was re-signed as well, offensive guard, and Colton McKivitz was that 1 year added to his deal. He was already signed through 2024, but now has a deal through 2025. And then Juwan Jennings got that second round tender as a restricted free agent. So if team can sign him, just like the 49ers who signed an offer sheet with Brock Wright, tight end from the Detroit Lions. We'll find out later Wednesday when if the Lions are going to match that offer. A team could match Juwan Jennings' restricted free agent offer, but they'd have to give up a second-round pick to the 49ers to do so. That seems very unlikely to happen. Still some free agents out there. Tashawn Gibson, Ross Dwelly, Logan Ryan, Randy Gregory remain unsigned. And that's the offensive side of the ball. So let's stop there. Not a lot has happened. It's hard to even say that the 49ers got better or worse on offense, right, Wink? Unless you think Sam Darnold is a big loss. I think Wink might be frozen. Let's go to Croc on that. Croc, what do you think? Offense, I think that's pretty. They did very little there. They probably did less than we expected on the offensive side of the ball, but they were one of the best offenses in the NFL. So this is probably a long-term thing. That's why I think they might be heading to the draft on the offensive side of the ball, Croc.
How many guys from the Super Bowl that started on the offense will not be back?
Zero.
So Now, depending on who you ask, there are some people that may have a problem with.
Unless Brandon Ayuk is traded. But otherwise, or Debo.
Which we've given a 10% chance of happening. So more than likely.
Right, yeah.
Do you think it's higher than 10%?
I think it's good. 10%. It's not impossible. A team could come calling, and we don't know who's going to be alive Sunday, as Kyle Shanahan once put it. So it's never 0%, even if it's low.
The tough thing there is Kyle Shanahan, a wise man once said, this wise man is Kyle Shanahan. He said that you're either getting better or you're getting worse. And if you bring back all the same people, did you get better offensively? Unless you say, oh, well, and again, this is me talking myself into something, right? We got better because throughout the year, we were able to build a certain continuity. We get that same group back. We get to continue to build continuity. And now you see a better product on the field. My thing would be, what is a better product than what you put on the field last year? If you have all the same players, definitely a team who, what they finished top. If we're just talking about stats, right? Just rushing yards, passing efficiency. I don't even want to say passing yards because they don't throw as much as other teams, but passing efficiency, just overall offense. They were really good, really good. So it's like, well, how much better could they be? And if they are better, what would that look like? But I guess the biggest question is, how do they get better? And if you have the same guys, I think that's the thing that people will have a problem with offensively. Where I don't. I'll put that out there. I do not have a problem with bringing back that same group because I don't think it. Unless Feliciano gets injured again, and we'll see what happens with Spencer Burford. But felt like that offense can win. I guess the bigger question is, what would it take? And is it Kyle Shanahan maybe doing things different, going about things a certain way, differently than what he's done in the previous Super Bowl or two Super Bowls that the 49ers played in? So I feel like both offenses were definitely good enough to win that game.
I think and I do think though that the counterpoint and the argument there is that what if blank was better, would they have hoisted the Lombardi, right? If their offensive line was better in that game, and it wasn't even like just getting beat necessarily. There was assignment busts and things like that too. How much of that are you going to fix with a rookie? And how would you handicap the ability for a rookie at any position, pick a position on offense, a rookie's going to come in and beat those guys out? Who's the player? Remember a few years ago, and everyone was up in arms. They're like, what are you guys talking about? They're like, I don't know. So-and-so is pretty good. I don't see a guy coming in and beating him out. Do you remember who that was?
Cassius Marsh.
Oh, Cassius Marsh, right. Yeah, exactly. And then what happened the next offseason? Oh, we're going to add like 9 defensive ends because we got to get better there. We got to get better than Cassius Marsh on the defensive line. So they kind of got that wrong. I don't want them to get that wrong on the offensive line, and all of a sudden you go through the season, you're like, oh, man, that needed to be addressed in the offseason, and we didn't do it, and it's going to hold us back.
No, but, okay, let's go back to that, right? Let's revisit that topic. Like, how did they improve over Cassius Marsh? Oh, well, we just had a terrible year. We had a lot of injuries. We had the, number 2 overall pick with Nick Bosa right there waiting for us to grab him. So you have that. And then it's like, you know what? Let's go up and give a second-round pick for D Ford, and we have to turn around and pay him a ton of money. So, yes, they did improve over Cassius Marsh, but I did think it was kind of drastic in the way that they had to go about doing it. Where right now, maybe they're trying to go more cost-efficient ways of improving the offense or more practical, through the draft. But then the question becomes, and we've seen this a lot with the 49ers, if that player is not ready right now, you're not playing for the Carolina Panthers, you're not playing for the Atlanta Falcons, you don't have the luxury to be a draft pick on the 49ers. And if you come in and you're just slightly not ready, they're not going to play you to get ready. You're just going to end up doing what Aaron Banks did and kind of have to redshirt until it's like, okay, he's ready now. And we saw this. It's not even just an Aaron Banks thing. You look at some of the running backs, right?
Ask Danny Gray how that's going.
You ask Danny Gray. And some guys, stay there. Some guys make it out. You look at Trey Lance, right? We've seen where Trey Lance's timeline on and again, maybe he just never was going to be good, but his timeline on the development curve that he needed did not match the same championship timeline the 49ers had, what made it very easy to move off of him for Brock Purdy, who came in and played how they needed him to play right away. So again, you go and you grab a first round offensive tackle at 31 and say, all right, we want you to play over McKivitz. But if he's not playing championship type football right now, or at least to this, what you've seen from McKivitz, which was he was a starter all year, it's going to be hard to bench McKivitz for even this first round pick.
Next, let's talk about the defensive side of the ball. Wink is back. The short version of that, Wink, if you didn't catch all of it, was they didn't change anything on offense.
Yeah, nothing wows you, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's something major for draft day. So next, let's talk about what the draft needs have become. They made a lot of changes on defense. Let's get to that side of the ball next. This episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by FanDuel. The sports calendar is loaded, and FanDuel is making it even more exciting to get in on the action. I love April. I love opening day Major League Baseball. I love the tournament, Final Four now. You got NBA, NHL playoffs getting on the horizon as well. The weather is getting better, going outside, getting a little golf in as well, and you can bet on golf at FanDuel. Because right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 you can use to bet on the tourney, Major League Baseball, NBA, NHL, and so much more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to make your first bet a big win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. All right, let's go through the offseason maneuvers on the defensive side of the ball, guys. And a lot more has been changed here, along with the guy who's calling plays for that defense. Chase Young, defensive end, defensive tackle Eric Armstead out, Saints and Jaguars respectively there. Sebastian Joseph Day. Niners might get a 7th-round comp pick, by the way, for a guy who spent like 2 minutes on the roster. Sebastian Joseph Day is now signing with the Tennessee Titans. Oren Burks, linebacker, is left for the Eagles. Wide receiver Ray McLeod goes to the Atlanta Falcons. Javon Kinlaw is with the Jets now. Cleveland Farrell signs with the Washington Commanders. Sam Darnold with the Vikings. We're not doing offense anymore. We're doing defense here. Isaiah Oliver, that's who it was. Corner is now on the Jets. The 49ers brought in a number of players, though, especially in the front seven. Ezekiel Turner from the Arizona Cardinals. Devondre Campbell, linebacker from the Packers. You got Malik Collins in a trade with the Houston Texans. Jordan Elliott, free agent signing, defensive tackle from the Browns. Leonard Floyd from the Bills as a defensive end pass rusher. Yetur Gross-Matos, a little bigger body defensive end, free agent signing from the Carolina Panthers, 2-year deal. You got Isaac Yiadom from the Saints at cornerback, and Chase Lucas, defensive back, who was an exclusive. Was he exclusive rights free agent? I'm not sure. Anyway, he was not tendered by the Detroit Lions. So Niners going trying to double dip with those restricted guys over there with the Detroit Lions young free agents. All right, so that is what has changed on the defensive side of the ball, guys, as well as Tashawn Gibson and Logan Ryan and Randy Gregory remaining unsigned out there as well. If they had to change that much personnel on defense, Was it really the play caller? Like Kyle Shanahan's just really not happy with the defensive side of the ball, right, Wink?
I mean, you look at all of those names that you listed, right? And it's hard to say that the 49ers got better on defense because Eric Armstead, to me, is the unsung hero of that defensive line. He has been for the last 3 or 4 years. You know, he's a stud. He gets things done. He's out there playing, injured all season long, and now he walks, and that sucks. But when you have the highest paid defensive end and you have the highest paid middle linebacker, like, you're gonna have to make some concessions elsewhere. So you look at what the 49ers did, and they brought in some cool names. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this defensive line kind of molds together and how they do the rotations and things like that. But to me, I think the biggest name that's not even on there that wasn't a free agent is coming back. And I'm talking about Talanoa Hufanga. Like, I think that's going to be one of the biggest additions to the 49ers defense this year because he was missing last year. The year before last, he was amazing. He was a Pro Bowler, right? I mean, you're talking about a guy who was fantastic as a young football player. Will he have the same speed? Will he have that same go get it attitude that he had before coming off of the injury? You hope so. And you hope he comes back good at where he was or even better. But it's a big question mark to me. So I'm worried about the defense. I'm not sure they got better, and hopefully they do something in the draft there as well.
I think they got somewhat healthier, and that's really the key with Eric Armstead, because you're not getting better by swapping Eric Armstead for Malik Collins unless Collins is healthy and Armstead is not. And by the way, they came from the same draft class, and so they're the same age. You didn't get younger there either. You didn't get younger on the defensive end spot. Yetur Gross-Matos is a younger free agent in his mid-20s, and so is Elliott. But Leonard Floyd's an older player in his 30s, been around a long time. Croc, did the 49ers tell us what they're going to do in the draft by doing so much free agent work on defense and untouching the offense? Were they saying, look, free agency on defense, draft on offense? Or do you think they just said, look, we're going to fix what we think we can fix now for the money we think we can spend on it, and we're going to go wide open, best player available in the NFL draft?
I think it's the latter there. I mean, because again, we just had a full-on conversation about the 49ers and the offense. They brought back all the same players that contributed to a really good offense throughout the year that was in the Super Bowl minutes away from winning one. Defensively, they lost guys. They lost defensive ends. They lost, you have an injury at the linebacker position with Dre Greenlaw. You need him to be able to recover. So you saw them trying to target that position and address it. All right. So, for me, it just looks like best player available. They're setting themselves up for that. Can you be better than guys that started every game for us last year offensively? If you can, then okay, we take you, and if you're going to have to, earn your spot. And then if you do, like, great, awesome, let's go. I don't think that they are anticipating that happen, just knowing how Kyle Shanahan thinks. On the other side of the ball, on defense, can you come in and be better than Ambry Thomas, a guy who kind of had to, quote unquote, start in more of a nickel package situation because you had to play Lenore inside? Well, I think you have a better chance of that than maybe finding somebody that's going to start over even McKivitz or Feliciano right away, day one. Not saying it can't happen, but just the odds of it. So I don't know if it's him telling us which way they're going in the draft, but just more so about how they feel about the offense and the defense at this present time, which is the defense they needed to address certain things because of losses that they had or guys not stepping up in certain positions.
Yeah, guys, we're not going to be shocked if the 49ers draft a wide receiver, right, at the end of the first round. Like, it's not going to be a shock to us.
It would be pretty telling of what future plans are, but I would be more shocked at wide receiver than I would D-line, just because these aren't long-term maneuvers. They're 1-2 year moves. They're all short-term moves. We're talking about with the defensive line in the front seven. So, and they want to be good there. So if the best player available is a defensive lineman, I think they'll still make that pick at pick 31. But the question I want to ask you, Wink, is, and maybe your answer is wide receiver, what position do you want to be best player? Because the 49ers, I think, could line up and play a game tomorrow. And I think that's the right way to do it in the offseason. If you're a team that has a good roster and you're trying to win, some teams just can't be good enough to, have a roster set if you're rebuilding, before the draft starts. But I think the 49ers are right there. I think that was the plan. And I like that plan generally, because then you can do what you need to do in the draft. What position do you want to be best player available at 31, Wink?
I mean, obviously, I'd love a right tackle, right? I'd love it just be like, oh, this is the guy who can come in right now and start. This is the best player on the board. We're going to bring him in. Do I think that's possible? Yeah. Do I think that's going to happen? Probably not. So to me, it's like, if you look at how the 49ers have drafted defensive linemen outside of Nick Bosa, it hasn't been great, right? Like, where's Drake Jackson? Like we're looking at these guys, Solomon Thomas was in and out. When you're looking at first round talent, I'm not sure the 49ers have been the best at drafting that. Whereas you have some wide receivers lately, and Deebo Samuel was obviously a second round pick, but he was very close to a first round pick. So to me, I think that is more their style. That's more like, okay, we know this guy, we know he's going to fit our system. Let's go get him. Let's bring him in.
And I do think Kyle Shanahan, like we've seen in the draft, I think that's where he likes to get his toys. So it's like, let's get the boring stuff out of the way, and then we're going to go trade up for these guys I really like in the draft that I've been scouting. That's kind of the way the 49ers have done it. And John Lynch has been willing to go get Kyle's guys too. So I don't think we should be shocked there. And we saw a big maneuver in 2018 to go get a right tackle in Mike McGlinchey, and they sent a guy packing overnight in Trent Brown. So, creating that need and going and getting their guy. And it was kind of surprising to some people that they were going right tackle in the draft. So maybe that's a direction Kyle Shanahan's looking, is like, look, we're going to go to the draft. It's a really good draft for offensive linemen. It might even be round 2. Maybe you trade up in round 2 because there's that defensive lineman in round 1 that you can't say no to. But I'd be shocked if in the first 2 rounds they don't draft some offensive lineman. Could be an interior guy, could be a tackle. Maybe that doesn't start right away, but I think that is absolutely the direction the team, I think they're telling us that that's the direction they're going, if you're reading the tea leaves.
Any draft day trades you guys see happening? You just talked about McGlinchey. They traded away Trent Brown for a 3rd round pick. And I think for a lot of us, it made sense once they made the trade. But at first, when they drafted Mike McGlinchey, I was like, wait a minute. You have Trent Brown. Like, why would you draft McGlinchey 9th overall? Then I think it was like at midnight or the next morning, we find out, oh, Trent Brown is traded. Makes sense. He didn't quite fit. Any surprise draft day trades you guys kind of foresee happening?
I'm hoping it's not Ayuk. I'm hoping that's not the one that they've been kind of sitting on and might get a great offer. And all of a sudden they're like, yeah, guys, we got to pull the trigger on this. We can't afford him.
Yeah, it might be the DeForest Buckner thing where they just a team calls their bluff. It's like, look, cap realities, we have to consider it. If you will give us blank, we'll make the deal. Will a team give them that? And I think it could be potentially good for the 49ers long term if they do things correctly at wide receiver and able to, maybe it makes them worse this year, which I don't think they want to do necessarily, but maybe long term it makes them even better to make a deal like that. But I think that, and I've seen some other fan bases are, like jackals and they're like vultures and they're like, oh, would you guys, and this is the classic thing you see all the time on Twitter. It's like, would you trade the 3rd round pick plus this other player for Brandon Ayuk? It's like another fan base. And then 49ers fans get a hold of this tweet and they're like, what are you talking about, dude?
Yeah.
Like,
do you watch football?
In what world? Like, if the 49ers trade Brandon Ayuk, it's going to be a big return, I think, or else they wouldn't even consider it. So if they did trade Ayuk, I think it might be a good potential deal long term. You might get worse at wide receiver in 2024, though.
Hope not.
All right. Defensive line. Always a draft need. Don't be shocked by it. Offensive line, yes. Wide receiver, sneaky need. Cornerback, I think that's the top 4.
Yeah.
That's it.
Safety? Did you mention safety?
I didn't mention safety, but I think it's something that this regime, by the way, has not drafted corners and safeties high, period.
I don't think that's because they went draft corners or safety. I think it's just how just the layout of things work, right? Like I would have taken Minkah Fitzpatrick. We've made that very clear.
Right.
But it's like, well, we have this offensive tackle that we really like. It's harder to get an offensive tackle, than it is a safety that can play, which we've seen the 49ers kind of do patchwork with the safety position.
And I think they've proven that it's kind of a good plan.
It works. Yeah.
But they're doing it right now at right tackle with McKivitz. So I don't think it's not ideal. I think you look at even if you go back to, I remember there was one year I'm like, they're going to draft a guy. It might be now. Everybody's like, oh, they need to draft corner. But I'm like, but you got Witherspoon. He has started a lot of games. You had Emmanuel Mosley coming off of a really good postseason run. Richard Sherman coming off of an all-pro year. I do see moving forward you may need one, but I can't see them drafting one right now. And I feel like they've just always kind of been in that position where there's guys that are just good enough that, we don't have to go and address this, as opposed to, we just won't draft corners and safeties high. So I think right now you start to look at where they're at, especially with where they're picking, and you say, all right, take the number one safety on the board because how much do we like Jair Brown, who was a late 3rd round pick? How much do we like Talanoa Hufanga, who is coming off of a torn ACL, and how is he going to recover? I think there's a lot of question marks surrounding the safety position. If there was any position where we're kind of leaving off that we haven't really touched on, I could see them saying, remember, Brown started, then they benched him. Now, again, rookie, we know how they deal with rookies and stuff like that, but he was a starter, they benched him, and he didn't start the season. They had someone else starting the season, and then there's like, oh, well, we have to play him. So then they played him, and it's like, let's put in Logan Ryans. You know what I'm saying? So I could see them saying, all right, we're drafting late. We the corner that we like is gone. The offensive tackles that we really liked at this point are gone. Man, let's address the safety position. Now we have our safety with a 5th-year option for the next 5 years.
They have been sniffing around some free agent safeties as well, too. So it's a player that they're going to add at some point, it seems like, and replace that Tashawn Gibson, or who knows, maybe they just add Tashawn Gibson again at the end of the summertime. We'll see. All right. Thanks, everybody, for making this your first listen on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Wink, always a pleasure. Thanks to all the listeners. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and everywhere you get your podcasts.
See you.